12 tribes.
Shalom, Israel. This is iSRAELITE. I heard the race is not to the swift, but to those that endure. We got a new dance for y'all. It's called the Holy Ghost Slide. Let's see if you can keep up.
We gon' slide from the west side till we slide to the east. From the south to the north side, we gon' slide at the feast. All praise to the Most High. Yeah, I was shy in the 12 tribes. Whatever you do, don't kill my vibe. Holy Ghost
Valley
slide.
of the drop on step with me. Thriller foot track to the left with me. Part the Red Sea to the right with me. If you part of the 12, then gon' slide with me. Crossover like you're coming out of Egypt. Let them know you fly, you don't need a visa. Look in the mirror, you a new creature. Drip on 12, you don't need a
We gon' slide from
meter.
the west side
Let's go.
till we slide to the east.
Yeah.
From the south to the north side,
Let it drag.
we gon' slide at the feast.
Come on.
All praise to the Most High. Yeah, I was shy in the 12 tribes. Whatever you do, don't kill my vibe.
I'm feeling good.
Holy Ghost
Step to the
slide.
north, then step to the west. Step to the south, then slide to the left.
Now boogie like you're David. Israel 12 tribes, yeah, we famous.
Step to the north, then step to the west. Step to the south, then slide to the left.
Walk on water like you're Howard Shy and tell her, oh, you goodbye.
We gon' slide from the west side
West side.
till we slide to the east.
To the east.
From the south to the north side,
Sons of God.
we gon' slide at the feast.
Where my sisters?
All praise to the Most High. Yeah, I was shy in the 12 tribes. Whatever you do, don't kill my vibe.
Don't kill my vibe.
Holy Ghost
Step to the
slide.
north, then step to the west. Step to the south, then slide to the left. You can do it.
Now boogie like you're David. Israel 12 tribes, yeah, we famous.
Step to the north, then step to the west. Step to the south, then slide to the left.
Walk on water like you're Howard Shy and tell her, oh, you goodbye.
We gon' slide from the west side till we slide to the east. From the south to the north side, we gon' slide at the feast. All praise to the Most High. Yeah, I was shy in the 12 tribes. Whatever you do, don't kill my vibe. We gon' slide from the west side till we slide to the east. From the south to the north side, we gon' slide at the feast. All praise to the Most High. Yeah, I was shy in the 12 tribes. Whatever you do, don't kill my vibe.
Shalom, shalom, Israel.
Shalom.
Go ahead.
Shalom, Israel.
My name is Shamar Yah. To my left,
Allah Kabar.
my brother, Big Swole. So tonight we're going to be going into Egypt, still captives. You know, a lot of people, well, not only in the spirit of Passover, which we know we're in the first month of Bib, Passover is coming up fast, you know, rushing, approaching. So we're going to be talking about, you know, that Egypt, that bondage. Are we still in bondage today? You know, the similarities between the past Egypt versus what the situation we're in today, how it all relates. We're going to try to tie it together and paint a picture, you know, to give our people some understanding. We're going to start off, I want to actually a definition of denizen.
Definition of denizen. An inhabitant or occupant of a particular place.
An inhabitant or an occupant. So it doesn't necessarily say anything particular about you, simply that you live there. Go ahead.
A foreigner
Yeah, kind of.
a foreigner allowed certain rights in the adopt country.
In a who?
In an adopt country.
So it's an adopt country, meaning this is not your foreign. Excuse me. This is not your native land. You're a foreigner. So black people, or I should say, Israel. It's not just Southern Kingdom. It's not just Northern Kingdom. Our people. We always have this perspective of, well, I got rights. We be shocked. Yeah. We be shocked when Esau be like, I don't care. What? I got rights. No, you're not a citizen. You're a denizen. You're a foreigner that's been given rights in this land, but this is not your native land. So what does that mean? Well, it means you have some luxuries. It means you can walk down the street punishment-free, as long as you're not walking down the wrong street. It means that you can pretty much achieve whatever it is, but you only are allotted certain rights. Like you see our history in this country, when you look at the so-called Negro, right? We were always voted or always seen as property, chattel slavery. We're just objects. Then when they finally said, okay, let's sit down, let's determine the value of a Negro life. What'd they give you? They give you 3/5. Say, okay, so you've been given certain rights. We'll acknowledge that you're there. We'll acknowledge that you have some type of value. But it pretty much takes 2 Israelite men to equate to the Edomite. And so we're allotted certain rights in this country, but that doesn't mean that we're not captives. But we're going to get into it. Let's start off with Exodus 1 and 6.
The book of Exodus, chapter 1, verse 6. And Joseph died, and all his brethren, and all that generation.
Mm-hmm.
Verse 7.
We're going to read all the way down to 14.
Okay. And the children of Israel were fruitful and increased abundantly and multiplied and waxed exceedingly mighty, and the land was fulfilled with them.
So, we were having a lot of children. Our nation was growing, and there were more of us than there were actual Egyptians. Go ahead.
Right. Now, there arose up a new king over Egypt, which knew not Joseph. Mm-hmm. And he said unto his people, behold, the people of the children of Israel are more and mightier than we.
So he said, he looked back. He sat back, and he said, okay, I see a lot more of them than it is of us. That's a problem, because eventually you're going to have a conflict of interest where the working class outweighs or outnumbers the higher class. Like, okay, we got to be wise about this. Read on.
Verse 10, come on, let us deal wisely with them. Mm-hmm. Lest they multiply, and it come to pass that when there falleth out any war, they join also unto our enemies and fight against us, and so get them out of the land.
So what did he do? Go ahead.
Therefore they set over them taskmasters to afflict them with their burdens.
So he said, look, it's more of them than there is of us, and they don't have, there's an opportunity for them to potentially take over this land. So he said, look, we don't start doing something, they're going to join themselves unto our enemies, and then there's not going to be no more Egypt. So he said, look, this is what we're going to do. Put them niggas to work. He said, I'm going to afflict them. You ain't got time to be dreaming when all you trying to do is survive. You don't have time to sit up here and think about what you want to be doing, what you desire to do. You got time to get up, go to work, and go to sleep. It's like, and look at how America is structured. You don't have time to really invest in your family. You spend most of your time, because mind you, you already have typically an 8-hour workday, but you don't get paid for the hours where you're not on the clock but preparing for work. That's right. So you got to travel, because LA is it's crazy. Because my grandpa is from Mississippi. He said, when I came to LA, I didn't even realize how crowded it was until I asked for directions. And when people give directions in LA, they don't say miles, they say minutes. Well, it's going to take you, it's 2 miles. It's going to take you 30 minutes to get there.
That's facts.
So, you have to go to sleep a certain time the night before. You got to get up a certain time just to be there on time. There's a whole bunch of stuff. That's a whole lot of your time that you're not getting paid for. We just working, and that's all we can do a lot of times. By the time you get home, you're not focused on it. You're not in the space to really say, okay, let me invest in my kids. They getting you secondhand. They getting the hand-me-down you that's already exhausted, already impatient, already looking forward to decompressing and unwinding. you don't have time for nothing because he's like, man, we got to afflict them. We got to put them to work. Go ahead.
Man. And they built for Pharaoh treasure cities, Pithom and Ramses.
Come on, go ahead.
Verse 12. But the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and grew. And they were grieved because of the children of Israel.
That's one thing about Jake's, we're going to find a way to have a good time.
That's right.
No matter what you're going through. If you can't afford nothing else, you got a wife at the house. You're going to have a pastime. We kept growing because we're going through struggles. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Verse 13. And the Egyptians made the children of Israel to serve with rigor.
Rigor. That means like intensity. You got to work hard. Mind you, they're not in. Well, they say we're close to the equator to where the weather out here is similar, but to be outside all day, that's laborious work. That's hard work. Yes. Go ahead.
And they made their lives bitter with hard bondage.
Hard bondage. Go ahead.
And mortar and brick, and in all manner of service in the field. All their service, wherein they made them serve, was with rigor.
He said it don't matter what you was doing out there, you was working hard. It didn't matter whether you was building the pyramids, whether you was just a shoe cobbler. They like, we got something for you. I'm going to find something for you to do. Just like how Esau used to do. Shine my shoe, nigga. Yeah. Because you're not going to get comfortable. You're not going to be at a peaceful state. Because then what's going to happen? You're going to start thinking about what you desire. You're no longer in a mindset of servitude. You're more so like, okay, well, what can I accomplish? Esau like, nah, I'm not going to let him get there. I'm going to do this. That's the same thing ancient Egypt did. Go to Exodus. Let's go to chapter 2, verse 10.
The book of Exodus, chapter 2, verse 10. And the children, and the child grew, and she brought him up unto Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. Mm-hmm. And she called his name Moses. And she said, because I drew him out of the water.
So we know who this is. It's Moses. Go ahead.
And it came to pass in those days when Moses was grown that he went out unto his brethren and looked on their burdens. And he spied an Egyptian smiting an Hebrew on one of his brethren.
So Moses was, once he became an adult, he understood like, okay, even though I grew up in this fashion, I understand that these people who are serving with rigor, these are my people. So he's seen an Egyptian, beating an Israelite. Go ahead.
Verse 12. And he looked this way and that way. And when he saw that there was no man, he slew the Egyptian and hid him in the sand.
So I wanted to go here because it really paints the pictures. Oftentimes we can read things. I like to dissect. And oftentimes, really get into what's being said or what you can infer based on the information that you have, right? He said he saw someone that was beating an Israelite. So mind you, that to me, that paints a picture like, okay, it wasn't a crime or it wasn't even frowned upon to be beating an Israelite in broad day. Right. You have to really look at, it's not like he was walking by somebody's house and heard screams, ran down into the basement. He was on the street. He walking down the street in the market and he like, man, I can't believe this is happening. And that's exactly what you see with our people. Our people ain't nobody afraid to put hands on an Israelite. It be people killing us in broad day, police gunning us down in broad day, calling us nigga and all this kind of stuff. Broad day, they be bold, feel like they untouchable because they're like, you ain't gonna do nothing. You know what's gonna happen to you? You bet you. We get to the point where we have to really weigh in the balance. Is this worth my life? Yeah, this person called me a nigger. But they ain't gonna care about your life the way they caring about the person who calling the police or the citizens of this nation. So it wasn't hid, just like it's not hid today. So Moses ended up killing that man. Drop down to actually read on. Okay. Verse 13.
Verse 13. Mm-hmm. And when he went out the second day, behold, 2 men of the Hebrews strove together. Mm-hmm. And he said to him that did the wrong, wherefore smitest thou thy fellow? Uh-huh. And he said, who made thee a prince and a judge over us? Uh-huh. Intendedest thou to kill me, as thou killed the Egyptian? And Moses feared and said, surely this thing is known.
So he was like, who made thee? He said, who are you? Sitting up here telling us not to do that. He said, who is you? First and foremost, why are you getting involved? And then once he recognized, he said, oh, what, you gonna kill me like you did that Egyptian? But what does that mean? That means that somebody had to have seen that, which means that somebody also saw this Israelite man getting hemmed up by this Egyptian and didn't get up to save him. Only Moses did. So there were other witnesses, but no one actually intervened. And that's constantly what I think about is how Jakes have this acceptance and this forgiveness and fear of the other nations, but we won't do that we won't have that same compassion to Israel.
Right.
And Jakes have a problem. Somebody got beat up. It's on. Jakes is loading up, mask on, man. We finna spin that block. But it's like all of a sudden when it's an Egyptian, man, this is wrong, man. I can't believe they doing this out here. It's like, damn, nigga, help. Giant man standing there. And it's not to say that it's an easy feat. You understand that you might lose your life, but it's like, at least you went out and potentially took some of them with you. You went out in a blaze of glory and an honorable death. We're not gonna live forever.
Yeah.
So, you know, if it has to come down to that, having a purpose in that life is more of a glory than, you know, living a life that's on your knees. I'd rather die on my feet than live on my knees. Right. So other people that seen that never intervene. So I always think about that, and I think about the situations we be in today. All the people who stood around George Floyd as he said he couldn't breathe, all the Jakes that was out there, people that considered and contemplated getting involved but just didn't. I'm like, man, it's literally a parallel civilization. It's a parallel situation that the children of Israel are in with the same mannerisms of captivity. Our lives don't mean nothing in this land.
The least thing we can do is be each other's keeper. Be our brother's keeper.
You could do. Drop down to 24, Exodus 2:24.
All right. Exodus chapter 2, verse 24. And God...
I'm sorry. Start at verse 23.
23. Mm-hmm. And it came to pass, verse 23, and it came to pass in process of time that the king of Egypt died. Uh-huh. And the children of Israel sighed by reason of the bondage. Uh-huh. And they cried, and their cry came up unto God by reason of the bondage. Uh-huh. And God heard their groaning. And God remembered his covenant with Abraham, with Isaac, and with Jacob.
So the Most High, you know, we wasn't necessarily all the way right in Egypt. We wasn't necessarily star pupils or star servants to the Most High, but we're still the Most High's children. So the Most High heard those cries and those prayers on account of the bondage, and he said, all right, I hear y'all, pretty much. He said, I hear you. Go ahead.
And God looked upon the children of Israel, and God had respect unto them.
So he's like, man, you know, y'all did wrong. That's why you got into captivity. But it's like, all right, I'll let you out. I'll try to see what's going on, see what y'all really talking about. And then obviously we know that we went into the Exodus. Drop down to 3 and 9.
Okay. Book of Exodus, chapter 3, verse 9. Now, therefore, behold, the cry of the children of Israel is come up unto me, and I have also seen the oppression wherewith the Egyptians oppressed them.
So he said, look, I hear what y'all saying. He's like, man, I feel for you. Because like I said, we're not necessarily all the way right, but there's still that affinity that the Most High had for Israel. He said, all right, look, let me see what's happening. Y'all praying, y'all say that y'all ready to come out, you know, you ready to get out of timeout. Let me consider that. But he said he had respect unto what they were doing. Like, man, I can understand that would be difficult on anybody. Go to Exodus 5 and 1. We're going to read down to 13.
Okay, the book of Exodus, chapter 5, verse 1. And afterward, Moses and Aaron went in and told Pharaoh, thus saith the Lord God of Israel, let my people go, that they may hold a feast unto me in the wilderness. And Pharaoh said, who is the Lord, that I should obey his voice to let Israel go? I know not the Lord, neither will I let Israel go.
So he said, man, who is that? Most High. So he had no regard for the Most High. He had no respect unto what Moses and Aaron was bringing it to him. And the crazy part, actually, we're going to read it. Go ahead.
Verse 3, and they said, the God of the Hebrews have met with us. Let us go, we pray thee, 3 days' journey into the wilderness, into the desert, and sacrifice unto the Lord our God, lest he fall upon us with pestilence or with the sword.
So I think about that like they didn't even necessarily say just let us completely go. They said let's go for 3 days. Right. We gonna go sacrifice. Let us just go for 3 days. But what did Pharaoh say?
And the king of Egypt said unto them, wherefore do ye Moses and Aaron let the people from their works? Get you unto your burdens. And Pharaoh said, behold, the people of the land now are many, and ye make them rest from their burdens?
So he already knew the potential. He said, look, I already see it's more y'all. I see that y'all have a power that we cannot tap into. He said, look, it's way too many people out there for you to be telling them not to work. Now you coming. It's going to be a bad look. Pharaoh couldn't have conceded, because if he would have did that, obviously our people would have seen that this man is nothing but a man. He's not no God king like, most of the Egyptian pharaohs portrayed themselves as. You have a certain level of, that you can kind of ease up, because there are certain things you'll be allotted. But Pharaoh was like, what? I'm not doing that. I'm not letting y'all go. Go ahead.
And Pharaoh commanded, verse 6, and Pharaoh commanded the same day the taskmasters of the people and their officers, saying,
he said the same day, as soon as they leave it, hey, come here, man, tell them this. Go ahead.
Ye shall no more give the people straw to make brick, as heretofore, let them go and gather straw for themselves.
So he said, look, make it harder on them. There's only so much they can build. They're already doing all this other kind of stuff. He said, look, make it harder. Give them something else to do. And mind you, that's the day that they said, look, we need a break to go plead with our God so that nothing happens to us, which would have also been Pharaoh's, prophets. All your servants is dying, that's also your prophets. But he's like, hell no, I'm not letting y'all go a day. And matter of fact, make it harder on them. Go ahead.
Yeah. Verse 8, and the tale of the bricks which they did make heretofore, ye shall lay upon them. Ye shall not diminish aught thereof, for they be idle. Therefore they cry, saying, let us go and sacrifice to our God.
So he said the workload that they had prior, they have to still uphold that, whether we give them assistance or not. It ain't just you gonna have to come into work. Imagine you had to go into work every morning and find all the stuff that you needed. You working at a desk, you got to go find your own computer. Like, you know what I'm saying? You got to go find your own tools. You got to go find your own resources. But they still saying you have this quota to uphold. You still have the same quota, but we're not going to give you any kind of assistance. It's like, well, damn, how am I supposed to do this? He was like, look, I'm about to make it hard on them Jakes. Go ahead.
Verse 9, let their more work be laid upon the man, that they may labor therein, and let them not regard vain words.
He said, let it be laid upon who?
Let it be laid upon the man.
The man, he said, look, that's the backbone of the household. He's going to be the guy. He's going to be the director. He's leading. If all he can do is come home and kick his boots off, what do you think everybody else is going to do in the house? They're more than likely, because he can't even oversee the way that he would like to, because all he can do is just get up and go to work and come back home, lay down. And I'm exhausted. I don't have time for anything. I don't have time to sit up here and, watch my child to grow up, or, teach my developing child about the birds and the bees. You don't have time to invest in your household. All you can do is work. You ain't going to be thinking about nothing else but just the smallest luxuries. The 15-minute breaks, the breeze in the wind. The smallest things are going to be what you're looking forward to, because your life is just so difficult. You don't have time to dream. You don't have time to have ambitions and goals when you don't have that. Go ahead.
Verse 10, and the taskmasters of the people went out, and their officers, and they spake to the people, saying, thus said Pharaoh, I will not give you straw.
Same day. Go ahead.
Go ye, get you straw where ye can find it, yet not aught of your work shall be diminished. So the people were scattered abroad throughout all the land of Egypt to gather stubble instead of straw.
So they just had to get whatever they could get, because they didn't have the access. They didn't even give them the resources. So they said, look, we just got to get something to try to put some strength into this brick. And then what did he tell them? Go ahead, verse 13.
And the taskmasters hasted them, saying, fulfill your works, your daily tasks, as when there was straw.
So they was on them. They said, man, get
Like
to
I
work.
never
They still cracking the whip behind them. Mind you, the children of Israel, it said they were scattered throughout the land. So if you have a designated job site, you got to venture way off to go find some straw, scattered throughout the land. Got to go way off to find some straw. Come back, and after probably, it ain't no telling, because it ain't like you in a city that's, everything is just in abundance and you could just go up the street to get it. They said, no, you do it yourself. You don't have access to any of that anymore. They had to go all throughout the land, try to find some straw. Yeah, then when you finally get enough to be able to potentially fulfill the order that you have, you got to come back and start on it. All in the same day. That's hella overtime, way more hours. You can't leave till you get it done. They just stuck. Like, man, that's bondage. Hot all day, cold all night. Oh, man, you ain't got time to go home and do nothing. That's why he said, hey, look, lay this upon the man, and ain't nobody else going to do nothing after he's been worn out, after he's defeated. Because the women is following who? They're following the men. And the child is following the woman. So it's like the whole household is going to be destroyed if you can get the man to subside in his duties. Let's go to Exodus 20 and 2. I'm sorry, 16 and 3. The reason why, so we're going to jump around a little bit. So the children of Israel, we know that the plagues happened, right? The plagues came upon Egypt, and eventually Pharaoh finally was like, okay, I can't handle it anymore. Get out of here before I change my mind. We got to the Red Sea, and the Pharaoh and the Egyptians were close in pursuit. Moses parted the Red Sea. The children of Israel walked across, and as the Egyptians continued on behind them, the Red Sea closed on them. So now we're in the wilderness after that Exodus, or during the Exodus, rather. Go ahead.
The book of Exodus, chapter 16, verse 3. And the children of Israel said unto them, would to God we had...
I'm sorry, start at verse 2.
Verse 2. And the whole congregation of the children of Israel murmured against Moses and Aaron in the wilderness.
Imagine you walk all these people out, you do all these amazing works, and everybody got an attitude every day. Like, this nigga Moses. This nigga Aaron. Go ahead.
The nerves. Verse 3. And the children of Israel said unto them, would to God we had died by the hand of the Lord in the land of Egypt, when we sat by the flesh pots, and when we did eat bread to the full. For ye have brought us forth into this wilderness to kill this whole assembly with hunger.
They was complaining. They was like, man, we should have at least died in Egypt when we was eating good every night. Man. At least we sat by, he said, flesh pots, which is like, pots full of meat. Yeah, I mean, luxury, that's a luxury, so to speak. America, America teaches you a diet that's heavy on meat, but in a lot of these other countries and around the world, they don't eat meat as prevalently as America does. It's not a every meal kind of thing. They was like, man, at least we used to be able to eat to the full and enjoy ourselves, this and that. But what I highlight out of that is that Stockholm syndrome, right? You have a care for your oppressor, but it's also like, we get so absolved or so assimilated into the system of our oppressors that we get accustomed to even the slightest things. And that's why I said, when you're going through that much bondage, you don't care what's happening. You're like, man, I'm coming home. I got a good plate. I go to sleep. He was like, man, at least we used to be able to eat good. They were so assimilated and so accustomed to pleasures, they would have rather given up their freedom simply for that security. They would have rather given up their freedom simply so that they can eat a meal and be comfortable. Forget the fact that I'm free, I'm comfortable. When you kept comfortable or you kept so tired that you can't aspire for anything else, where's your desire for freedom? That's why when they finally was free, they're like, man, I just want something to eat. That's all I care about, because they've been in that state of oppression for so long. They're like, man, that's all I'm worried about. Absolved in this mindset that Egypt was teaching them. Egypt was very heavy on narcissism. Worship of self, all about you. Is that not what America teaches? Is that not what we're constantly pushed?
Right.
And then you have the crazy part about it is, let me see, how was I gonna tie that in? The crazy part about it is more than the men, oftentimes it be the kids that's under attack. Because when we watch movies and TV shows and we laugh at the adult jokes and kind of think that it's innocent, it's like to a child, they're not able to decipher and break down what's happening. All the impressions and all the subliminal messages, all these things that America gives unto you, the next thing you know, you get older and you be like, I ain't doing that, and whoop-de-whoop, and you got all these different perspectives, and you be like, man, where did this come from? You got sat in front of a TV your whole life, or you sitting your kids in front of a TV, letting them be educated and indoctrinated based off of what your enemy would have them to see. You got Cardi B, you got the Megan Thee Stallion, an inspiration of women. She's just so inspired. It's for the kids. I'm like, nigga, what part of that was for the kids? I was like, she thanking God. I'm like, oh, but people are all watching that. And so for the younger viewer that's more impressionable, that's where they're getting absolved. And next, you know, these women, these daughters of Sarah, and they'll grow up and you hearing that all day in front of the TV. You watching BT. That's what's playing in most black households. They like, cool, we going after them kids. All they show is rowdy women, prostitutes, pimps. Then this young impressionable mind grows up and it's like, I ain't doing that. I ain't never, don't never let a man do this. Don't let him never get you down. You look crazy giving him a plate. What are you, a slave? Right. It's like, man.
That's all they watched.
That's all we see. So America is pushing that same ideology into us one way or another. And we slowly adopt those things up until the point where we don't even recognize the tribulation that we face. We don't even recognize the hard times that we're under because we at least get some of the pleasures too. Man, forget that I got to look over my shoulder for the police. Forget that I might get killed for looking like somebody that bangs the hood that I just so happen to be living in or walking through. Forget all that, man. Look, we get to turn up. No, the 4th coming up. No, St. Patrick's Day coming up. You got all these times where you get to be entertained and eat to the full. You got all these times where you get to be satisfied. Most civilizations or most kingdoms, they did one of two things. They're going to put you into slavery and work you so hard you don't have nothing to focus on, or they're going to entertain the hell out of you. Look at, even during COVID, what's on the rise? As much as people are interested in stocks and bonds and trading and all that kind of stuff, the main thing that's never died down in America is entertainment. Even all these Edomites that's protesting, let us out, we can't wear the mask, and we can't do all this because they trying to do what? I need to get a haircut. Man. I need to go to the casino, I got to do this, because entertainment is foolproof. Entertainment is recession-proof. Because we're so taught, we've been indoctrinated so much to constantly care about what? Self. Self. Awesome. In the 07, 08 recession, I remember it was this sodomite, man. He was on the news, and he had a hair salon. They were like, you're not worried about, the recession, how it's going to impact business? He said, nah, black women to do anything to get their hair done. He said, I'm going to be the last one to go down. It don't matter what situation they in. They going to do whatever they got to do and find the money that they going to have to find because they care about self. They're going to do whatever they got to do. Was that all of that?
You was at verse 4. You want to read that?
Yeah, reread
3?
Yeah, reread 3.
And the children, verse 3. And the children of Israel said unto them, would to God we had died by the hand of the Lord in the land of Egypt, when we sat by the flesh pots, and when we did eat bread to the full. Mm-hmm. For ye have brought us forth into this wilderness to kill this whole assembly with hunger. Uh-huh. Then said the Lord unto Moses, behold, I will rain bread from heaven for you, and the people shall go out and gather a certain rate every day, that I may prove them, whether they will walk in my law or not.
So the Most High was like, look, I'm going to provide for them. I'm going to give them the basic necessities. I ain't going to let them die, Exodus 20:2. I'm not going to let them die, but this is a testing ground. So I got to see what y'all made of. I can't just bring you into the promised land and you've been in Egypt all this time. He said, I got to see what you're made of. And also, if you already talking that, the first dilemma we didn't came across, you already trying to go back. You're like, man. So he said, nah, I got to leave them out there. He said, I'm going to feed them. I'll provide for them, but I got to see whether they going to walk in his law or no. Exodus 20:2.
I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage.
Go to Deuteronomy 28. So we know that not Israel. Egypt is synonymous with the house of bondage. It was a tough time. It was a captivity within itself. So we're gonna get some of the curses because we're in this land, right? We're denizens, but we still partake in a lot of the luxuries of America. And the scriptures specifically tell you, there's one in particular I'm gonna highlight when we get to it. But it's like these are the things that we're going through that have always been issues within our communities, but also within outsiders that infiltrate our communities. Let's read verse 32.
Book of Exodus, chapter 28 and verse 32.
I'm sorry, Deuteronomy 28, 32.
Oh, it's like, yeah, Deuteronomy 28
okay. That's where you at.
and 32.
Go ahead.
Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people, and thy eyes shall look and fail with longing for them all the day long, and there shall be no might in thy hand.
So is that not what we're experiencing? So like we were saying in Egypt, they had to work so hard, they didn't have time to invest in their children. So what was going to happen? As soon as your child was able to work, they had to join the workforce. It was, probably wasn't very well educated because they don't have parents that can dedicate their time, that can invest in them. They're growing up in the land of their captivity. So the people that we buy from and sell from and the landlord all speaking Egyptian, what do you think those children are going to start to learn without their parents being able to direct them? So you really start to dismantle our entire culture because we're not, the man, the woman, they're not able to play our roles in bringing up these children. So he said, thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another nation. Now, we see that obviously through slavery, but you see it even now in a more passive sense. Your children, when they get a certain age, they have to do what? Enroll in school. You get penalized for not having them in any kind of schooling. You could say I homeschool them, but you have to, as far as I know, you have to get I believe even credentials just to homeschool, don't you?
Yeah.
You got to get you have to have some kind of permission from America. So America's like, one way or another, give me those kids. I'm going to teach them from their youth. I'm going to raise them up. I'm going to indoctrinate them. And once they get grown, I'm going to put every vice and tool that they need to go out here and live the lifestyle that I've been influenced. Because what happens if you fail? You have to just continue to go into the system, continue to buy in. You're getting a $500 check. You got to put $490 towards rent. What does that leave you with? Just enough to eat and get back to work.
Barely gas.
Just enough. And then the system was set up to where when we was kids, go to college, go to college, go to college. Now, even with college, you're getting pretty low-level jobs. Now it's about certain industries. Now, every time we try to find a way in, they find new politics. They can't outstrength you. They're going to outpolitic you. Read verse 45.
Verse 45. Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee and shall pursue thee.
Pursue thee. He said, don't matter where you go. Go ahead.
And overtake thee till thou be destroyed, because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of the Lord thy God to keep his commandments and his statutes which he command thee.
Drop down to 48.
Verse 48. Therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies, which the Lord shall send against thee in hunger and in thirst and in nakedness and in want of all things.
I'm going to stop you. So he said, you're going to serve, in hunger. And I always think, obviously, you have the more, the more evident ones, like, being slaves, not allowed to eat, can't just decide to take a break, all that kind of stuff. But even more so, our 10 tribe brothers still do that today. Every time there's some kind of major event, especially in California, you see the pictures of the 10 tribes still out there in fields, picking vegetation, working for these giant corporate farms. And man, they don't really be having no support. It'd be fires burning a couple miles away. They like, we're going to pick until the fire consumes these bushes. Like, man, our people is constantly having to work.
Or they just...
Go ahead.
Or they just come destroy the Jake's fields. I heard at one time they was selling cotton seed and stuff to the farmers, saying, "Oh yeah, this is gonna make your farm good," and it just destroyed and strangled all their crops. Man, they couldn't grow no more organics and nothing like that.
Same thing they do. Yeah, I must say that's the same thing they do with the cart.
Yeah.
Selling fruit, doing it, having a what do you call that? A legal I'm not gonna like righteous business. Ain't nothing necessarily ain't nothing criminal about that. But they put legislation in place to make it more difficult. You can't do nothing unless Esau say so. He said, in hunger and in thirst and in nakedness. So we have to go to him for all of our stuff. But even when you look at you working a corporate job, you working a nice job, you get told when to go to break, when to go to lunch, when you can get up and do the things that you have an interest in. They'll give you a problem going to the bathroom too much. You might just be having a bad day, stomach hurting. I'm taking a lot of bathroom breaks. Like, damn, is it anybody's business what I'm doing in the bathroom? I ain't been in there no 2 hours straight. What's the problem? You got
metabolism.
You got a work quota to fulfill. Get back to work. Man, I'm gonna have to get it with that. If Jake's got it, it says they considered our lives for sport. Read that, finish up that 48. I'm gonna find it.
Therefore thou shalt serve thine enemies, which the Lord shall send against thee, in hunger, and in thirst, and in nakedness, and in want of all things. And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he have destroyed thee.
He said, until he has destroyed you. Said you're going to have that yoke of iron until he get the job done. I remember my cousins used to breed pit bulls, right? Take a little puppy when he's young, and you constantly tugging on him. You put that choke chain on him. Discipline him. Every time he wonder, every little thing he's fascinated by, you snatch up on him. By the time he get big enough to be able to resist that chain, he gets strong enough to be able to wiggle out your hand, or powerful enough to overpower you and bite the hell out of you, he's not interested in doing that. Because you done already showed him so many times that he has the power that it doesn't believe in its own strength. You can manipulate it. So that's what I said. Our children are really the ones that are under attack, because you constantly showing media, and I see it all the time, especially in them Tyler Perry movies. You know, you got the all the softest, most lovingest, just men that aren't men. And it's not necessarily to say anything was criminal about them loving their wives, but there was no order in the household. They be deceitful. It's just all this kind of stuff. Then you get the one Jake in movies that be somewhat moving like a man, but then he be evil.
Yeah, they make him evil.
then you people walk around and they be, cut that beard. You look like a terrorist. Mm-hmm. Where does that come from? Because that's constantly what's portrayed in media. That's constantly what you feeding into your spirit, is that masculinity is dangerous. You got, they made it where they killed our sons and killed the men for being too masculine. What are you looking at, boy? Don't look me in my eyes. They constantly trying to do everything they can to break you down, because they're going to keep you in captivity. But he said, I'm only going to keep you in a chain until I have destroyed you. So what does that mean? Once I see you don't need that chain no more, I can take it off of you, because you're not going nowhere. You're already destroyed. And look at our people. It'd be a lot of mental illness. And it's unfortunate, because there's so much mental illness in Israel. You know, you see people that just be fighting shadows, out there swinging, yelling, and talking to themselves. Like, man, our people are out here hurt and destroyed, broken. Said, man, I'm going to do that until I have destroyed you. Once you're destroyed, I can let you out the chain. I mean, I can let you off the yoke. So where have we gone? Hell, who's the biggest defender? A lot of times don't even be defending himself the way Israel will. You come across the Edomite, be like, yo, people are the devil. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, we did it.
That's real. They admit it. Esau admitted, and plus they know the book they read. But our people, man, they will defend to the fullest.
Don't tell about him. Man, you remember that? It was a KKK member at a Black Lives Matter protest, and it was a black woman that was shielding them.
Oh, man.
Like, our people are just destroyed. Like, man.
But won't do that to their own, though.
But he probably did something anyway. Mm-hmm. He was probably like, man. He said, I'm going to do that until I have destroyed you. I'm going to let you off now. It ain't a problem. Where you going?
Real sad.
Con, was that all of that?
Yeah, that's it.
You have a point?
No.
Go to Genesis chapter 15 and verse 13.
Genesis 13 and verse
15 and 13.
Okay. Book of Genesis chapter 13.
No, 15 and 13.
Oh,
no problem.
15 and 13.
Okay.
The book of Genesis, chapter 15, verse 13. And he said unto Abram, know of a surety that thy seed shall be in a strange land, in a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years.
So, mind you, we was in Egypt, I believe a little over 400 years, about 430 years. We were only captive in Egypt about 80 years, roughly. We've been in America about 400 years. And I guess in a sense, all those 2019 prophecy Jakes was right in a sense, because life sure did change after 2019 through you know what I mean? It is a lot different, but the world has not ended. You know what I mean?
Right.
So the Most High was telling me, he said, look, your descendants is going to go into captivity for 400 years. They're going to be slaving. They're going to be suffering. That didn't happen in Egypt. That was before all those other captivities. But this is the captivity he was speaking of. He said, that's the Egypt I'm going to deliver them from. Go to Jeremiah 23. Speaking of Egypt, we talking about Most High. So that's why we're in this land now. Captives in this land, waiting on the Most High to deliver us. And the Most High said he would. The same way he said y'all can go into captivity, he also said I'll deliver you when you decide to get right. Same way he said I'm going to punish you, he also said I can bless you. 23, we're going to start at verse 7.
Jeremiah 23 and 7. Therefore, behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that they shall no more say, the Lord liveth, which brought up the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt. But the Lord liveth, which brought up and which led the seed of the house of Israel out of the north country, and from all countries whither I had driven them, and they shall dwell in their own land.
So he said, one day, we're not going to keep saying the Lord which brought us out of Egypt. That's a lot of things that we refer to. That's what you see all throughout the scriptures. He said, that's glory unto me, of course. But he said, I'm going to save them from something else. And it's not going to be said the Lord brought us up out of Egypt, because this is the only other captivity that both kingdoms have come and suffered under this kind of, slavery, for this longevity, to this severity. He said, look, it's something else that's coming that's going to dwarf Egypt. Because as rough as Egypt was, I'm not to say that it wasn't horrible, but it was a shorter-lived time. 80 years is probably 2 full generations to get about 40 years old. Depending on what life expectancy is, they might kick the bucket. They might be able to retire. You have to. It depends on the civilization at the time. But he said, look, I'm 400 years. They're gonna be stuck. Say, I'm gonna do a greater thing. Y'all ain't gonna even talk about Egypt no more. All they're gonna be talking about is how I brought them up out of the north country. He said, and everywhere else that they're scattered, my children are scattered. Go to Revelation 11 and 8.
The book of Revelation, chapter 11 and verse 8. And their dead bodies shall lie in the streets of that great city, which spiritually is called Sodom and Egypt, where also our Lord was crucified.
So he said, our dead bodies shall lie in the street. What's that young brother's name? Mike Brown, man. That's like one of the most notable public deaths. Left the Jake street. He was only, 18 years old? Left the Jake body in the street. It left him uncovered at that. He on the blazing hot asphalt, body cooking and warming. It's like, man, just no regard for the life, and even no regard for the remains. That our dead bodies shall lie in the street of that great city, he said, which is called Egypt. It's called bondage. We're going to be in bondage in this land. Said, which spiritually is called Sodom and Egypt. And of course, Sodom is obviously talking about this whole LGBTQ, the homosexual agenda, all the way up here. We was reading about how there's like a huge, what do you call that? Like community of homosexuals, especially in, California. It's like homosexual capital.
Oh, yeah.
This California. It's crazy because certain cities are just known, or certain states and cities are known abroad like this is where it's safe to be wicked. Men in Atlanta are notorious for being sodomites. Men, Hollywood, Long Beach, people know, like, oh yeah, that's the city of Sodom. Like, that's a city where this is where you're safe. This is where it's comfortable. There's gay clubs and gay bars and this. Yeah, like this is where it's safe. Go ahead.
Even in off Melrose, boy, and West Hollywood, it's the worst. I mean, they walk around butthole naked. All right, and I didn't see the police dressed like faggots too. Dressed like, just letting them walk around with their thing out and the whole nine, man. So,
and the crazy part is, like, you teach a child to be masculine, you teach him to be rough and tough, you teach a man to be a man. It's like you're warned against that. You know, that powerful family image is like, oh, why they gotta be so serious? Why they gotta be so rough? Why this? Why that? But let the Sodomites be out there swinging and all, kids running around. Little boys dancing to people throwing money. It's like, damn. Said their bodies shall lie in that great city. This is Sodom. This is Egypt. This is the land of the homosexual and the land of the slave. If it comes back to you, let me know. Give me Revelation 18. We're going to start at verse 1. We only have a couple more scriptures. And we're going to wrap it up.
The book of Revelation, chapter 18, verse 1. And after these things, I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lightened with his glory. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen, and is become the habitations of devils. And the hold of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird.
He said the hold of every foul spirit. Every foul spirit comes to America. Even when the so-called English were fleeing into America, they was going for religious freedom. Well, England was notoriously Christian, if I'm not mistaken. So you have these ideologies, which are at least in their foundation based on the Bible. People's like, we getting away from that. That Bible can stay over there. We're not doing that here. Slowly but surely, all that. And it's crazy because, I hate how certain things are disguised so well. It kind of like the word has an entirely different meaning. Freedom is one of them cold words. Freedom is one of them words that typically don't have nothing to do with actual freedom. You know, when one of them Edomites get to talking about some freedom and our freedom to do that, I'll be like, he got hella guns. He's a patriot. He hates black. I already know, because I already know what that lingo means. It's like, oh, our freedom, our freedoms, our freedoms, our freedoms. Right. So that's why people always come to America, because with that so-called freedom, you have no structure. You have no guardrails. You have no rules. You have no accountability. So everybody and their mama trying to come to America. You live in an oppressive country. What was that little Netflix movie that came out a couple months ago? You know what I'm talking about, with the little girls, and the little girl was Muslim, and she was being oppressed. Look at her mama trying to make her dress modest and cover her hair. She wants to express herself with her body. Yeah. Put her in a leotard and put her in front of all these grown men and tell her to shake something.
Right.
She's free. Like, oh, no, that's why I said freedom is that lingo. I hear somebody get to talk about freedom. I'm like, oh, shit, what you about to be on? Because I don't know what kind of spirit you got coming for all this so-called freedom. I said, man, it's the cage of every foul bird. Yes. Excuse me, every foul spirit. He says, so it's the hold. It's stuck here. Them spirits got a hold of this land. They're not walking away. They're not leaving. Like, man, we safe over here. They come, and not only do they come, they don't even have to hide. Say, a thriving homosexual. It's thriving homosexual communities. Right. And anybody that's, pretty much everywhere where people live, or every state, you already know where's the area that homosexuals are set up. You know that, like, it's known. Yeah, West Hollywood, Long Beach. It's a known city that's like friendly or welcoming to sodomites. They actually just burned there was a lifeguard tower that was painted with a rainbow. Somebody got tired of seeing it and burned it down. At least as far as I know, it looked like they're considering it a hate crime as of now. Sidewalks be having the rainbows. There's a lot of support for that community.
It's really sad, man. It's really sad. I remember when this one guy, it was a street like in the community of gays. Well, not that close, but I guess close enough. And a lot of people had support in their yard with the flags, and he didn't have support. He didn't have no welcome LGBTQ whatever movement, and the homosexuals around there was throwing rocks, broke his window and stuff, man. And they was like, if you don't put a flag, they was like threatening him. Like, if you don't put a flag in our yard, you're going to have problems, this and that. And sure enough, man, they complained about it, and the dude almost went to jail for it. Got fined, too. Damn. Had to go to court and the whole nine. You know, so yeah, it's beyond wicked, man. It's oh, boy. Abominable.
Ain't that what they did with Lot and Sodom and Gomorrah? They said, bring this man out to us that we may know him.
Yeah.
He said, nah, man, he said, look, we don't want none of that woman. Bring me that man.
Yeah.
Like, he said, it's the cage. You know, a cage is meant to hold something in. This is where everything foul and unclean is locked up. It's stuck here.
Sad.
Was that all of that? Let me see. Yes. Read verse 3. Yeah,
okay.
Come on.
For verse 3, Revelation 18:3, for all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. And the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her. Mm-hmm. And the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies.
The American dream. Everybody can come get a piece, especially if you're a heathen. The crazy part about it is it's a lot of grants and not loans, grants. They give you that money for people who are immigrating to start businesses, to get homes, all that kind of stuff. You have so many rights. It's like you have more rights than the actual people who are actual inhabitants. Esau, they're going to take care of theirs. Our people are denizens, so we don't have those rights. We still fighting for reparations for work we actually did, and they coming from a completely different country, don't have no ties, but they're willing to make that covenant. Look, set me up. I want that American dream. Let me come out there, give me a little something, and I'm going to live deliciously too. Because who are they profiting off of? Who's the working force? Israel. That's oftentimes your mailman. That's your water guy. That's your truck driver. It's so many of our people that literally keep this country going. We the ones that's out in the fields, picking the vegetables and the fruits. Israel keeps this country going. Every nation is like, look, we'll be in agreement. Give me some of these Israelites. Give me enough money. I'm going to hire some Israelites. I'm going to pay them minimum wage, bottom dollar, and I'm going to make a success out of myself. But the Most High said, man, all these nations got to get it. But that just goes to show how much of a captivity this is that we're in. Yeah. How another nation, they don't have no claim to so-called America and all this other kind of stuff, being told to go back to their country, still living better than you. Still living better than you. Still seeing justice way more often than we see justice. Oh, this little kid got punched because, they was racist. Kid got get to meet the mayor and the president, all that other kind of stuff, get special privileges. Let Jake get beat up because he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. They're going to pull out his criminal record. They're going to pull out everything to say, I've seen so many times under news reports where Edomites will get under there, even when Breonna Taylor died. They was like, well, she was with a felon. What did she expect? Like, damn, you don't even have to be the felon. You could be around the felon. Well, he gave up his chance. Like, man, this the cage of every foul spirit and every hateful bird. Do we read verse 4?
No.
Go ahead for verse 4.
Verse 4, and I heard another voice from heaven saying, come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues. For her sins have reached unto heaven, and God have remembered her iniquities.
He said, man, come out of her. That doesn't necessarily mean that you can leave or that you have to leave, because the Most High said, I'm going to gather the children of Israel wherever they may be and bring them back. But he said, look, no, you can be, what do Christians say? We need to take that back. Be in the world, not of the world.
Yeah.
I exist in this world. I move throughout this world. I conduct my business. I behave myself wisely, but I already know what it is. And I always think about how Ezra's was told by an angel. He got angels coming to him personally, answering questions. And the angel told him what? He said, you too far gone into the world. I always felt terrible when I read that. Because I'm like, he didn't even have a computer in his pocket. He didn't have access to wickedness or whatever, to shopping and he didn't have them luxuries. And it's like, damn, if he's too far in the world, I can only imagine how the Most High looking at us.
Right.
You got a point? No. Oh, kind of. But I'm like, man, I can only imagine how it's looking for us.
Real scary.
But, we still are waiting on the Most High, and we pray to be delivered from this Egypt. Because remember, the Most High said they're not going. I'm gonna save y'all. It's gonna be to the point where y'all not even gonna talk about Egypt no more. They gonna say, man, the Lord that have brought us out of the north country. So give me Deuteronomy 30, 1 through 3. So yeah, we are in captivity, and it is a very burdensome captivity. You know, we go through our struggles, and even if you manage to have certain advantages or make it to where you don't necessarily have to work, you still can get killed. You can get harassed, pulled out your home. What was that Jake name? J. Cole. Neighbors think I'm selling dope. Raids getting hit on your house.
Right.
You know, you still gonna live in captivity. It's like, man, but the Most High said, well, actually, let's read. The Most High said, you know, I got y'all. Go ahead.
Deuteronomy chapter 30 and verse 1. And it came to and it shall come to pass when all these things are come upon thee, the blessing and the curse which I have set before thee, and thou shalt call them to mind among all the nations, whether the Lord thy God has driven thee, and shalt return unto the Lord thy God, and shalt obey his voice according to all that I commanded thee this day, thou and thy children with all thine heart and with all thy soul.
So he said, when you turn back into the Most High, start having that desire, start reforming your ways, start keeping the commandments. He said, you and your children, can't be one generation. He said, you and your children. And then obviously, what are they going to do? Teach their children, so on and so forth. So once y'all get righteous, what do you say he's going to do?
That then the Lord thy God will return thy captivity and have compassion upon thee, and I will return and gather thee from all nations.
He said, look, he said, the Lord thy God will turn thy captivity and have compassion upon thee.
Yeah.
He said, I'm going to gather you up, whether the Lord thy God has gathered. He said, wherever you are, whatever you've gone through, he said, look, I'm going to gather y'all up. Go to Hebrews 2 and 14. Go ahead, go ahead.
And will gather thee from all nations, whether the Lord thy God has scattered thee.
So all praise to the Most High. It's, Hebrews 2 and 14. Okay. We painted I think I painted a bleak picture, so to speak. But I also want to give, as we cut down and face the hardships of reality, we also have comfort in the scriptures. Because the Most High said, the same way that we look at the punishments that we face as proof that the Most High is not only exists, but that he's dealing with us, we can also take faith and take hope in the promises that he assured us, saying, look, man, it's not going to be forever. I'm going to weed the wicked out of y'all. I'm going to prove you. I'm like fire in a furnace. And the crazy part about it, when you think about, gold in a furnace, I just thought about this. I was talking to somebody this past weekend, and I was like, the crazy part about it is, when you have a gold ingot or a little piece of gold and you melt it down, you don't have it's not going to melt in the shape of a nugget. It don't melt. You don't become, it doesn't resemble the thing that it was in its former stage. It's broken down to the point where it can be reshaped and refashioned in any form. The Most High said, look, I'm going to prove you. I'm going to break you down. But he said, but I'm going to build you back up. Hebrews 2 and 14.
Hebrews 2 and 14. For as much then as the children are partakers of the flesh and the blood, he also himself likewise took part of the same, that through death he might destroy him that had the power of death, that is the devil, and deliver them who through fear of death were all their lifetime subject to bondage.
So who is he talking about? The children of Israel. He said, man, don't worry about it. I got y'all. Last one. Give me Revelation 21 and 4. So the Most High said, look, like, I got y'all. The same way I had to, like I said, break you down, I might have to build you up. We go through our hard times. We go through our struggles. We go through our tribulation. But the Most High is like, look, like Yash always said, what did he say? He said, Lord said it was worth it. He never said it was fair. Right. He said the stuff I got waiting on you, ain't no man dreams. Ain't nobody can think about it. Nope. He said, you can't fathom. He said, and the things that you went through to get here can't even be compared to the things that I have waiting on you. So, take
heard
hope.
Of what he got coming.
He said, man, take hope, Israel. Yeah, it's a rough time. It's a rough situation. But for the righteous, those that keep their patience and endure unto the end, he said, the same shall be saved. Last one. What did I say? Verse 4.
21. Revelation 21 and 4. And God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes, and there shall be no more death, neither sorrow, nor crying, neither shall thou be any more pain, for the former things are passed away.
Imagine that. He said, I'm going to wipe the tears from your eyes. There's going to be no more death. You ain't got worried about the people that you're losing, the people that you love. You got to be, he said, it ain't no more of that. He said, it ain't no more sorrow, the depression, the anxiety you struggling with. You trying to just constantly push it down and bury it so you can keep moving forward. He said, you don't have to worry about that no more. You can take a load off.
Imagine that. No more fear, man.
No more fear.
Just go to the lion, to the wolves, the bear, you know. No more, no more, none
He
of
said,
that.
nor crying, neither shall there be any more pain. Yeah, I mean, you know what pain entails? You can get, burned physically. You can fall and break something. You can get into a car accident. But then you also have where you can die because of your mental state. You have broken heart syndrome. You can die from being too sad. The Most High was like, look, you ain't got to worry about that pain no more. He said, there should be no more pain, physical or otherwise. He said, I'm going to deliver you out of that captivity. I'm going to wipe your tears. And he said, last part, did you finish that? He said,
He said, and be no more pain, for all former things are passed away.
He said, because that's all done. Stuff that you had to go through to get here. He said, I know it was hard, but you ain't got to go through it no more. Well done, my good and faithful servant. That's that's the goal. Walking in this walk, that's the goal, is to be able to hear, the Most High, Yahweh Shai, say, well done. To be able to have been pleasant unto the Most High, Yahweh Shai, to where it's like, you know what, I'm going to present you before the Father. You're going to make it into this kingdom, or you're going to be a reputable within this. So, man, take heart, Israel. We are in this captivity, and it obviously is going to continue. We know the scriptures say that it's going to get worse, but at the same time, we also know that we have the hope of salvation in the end. You have any points you want to bring up?
No, that's it.
Khan. Well, man, be sure to tune in. Wow. I believe tomorrow we're going a little bit more in depth into the actual plagues and problems that Egypt faced. Today, I just wanted to draw a bit of a parallel, man. Be sure to tune in. We got tomorrow's lesson going into the plagues. We got Stick to the Script coming at you Thursday. Please be sure to share the video so that this gospel can reach those that need that good word, that need that deliverance and that word from the Most High and out of the scriptures. We don't do anything of our own glory. All praises be to the Most High. With that, I'm going to say shalom.
Shalom.